Hey friends, it is Jenna, what is up, and welcome back to the Board Game Garden, and welcome to a preview of this game right here. This is Northwest. It is published by Brickhouse Games, who is sponsoring today's video, so a huge thank you to them. And it's designed by Rick Ho. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce it, but today we are going to be going over Northwest. It is a game that is going to be coming to crowdfunding. I will have all of the links down below if you're interested in this one, but as you can see, this one has quite the table presence, and honestly, in my opinion, like, this would look absolutely amazing just like sitting on your coffee table. This is something that I would put out on my coffee table, kind of adjacent to like a chess set or something like that. I think it would be very cool. So this is the game right here. We're going to go over a little bit of an aim of the game, and then we'll get into all of the components, and then I will teach you exactly how to play Northwest. So if you are interested in that, then just keep on watching. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoy. Also hit that subscribe button down below if you've yet to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden. Without further ado, let's get into this preview of Northwest, shall we? So getting into the aim of the game of Northwest, I will start off by saying it is a 2 to 4 player game. It plays in about half an hour, and it is for ages 7 and up. And basically in Northwest, you are competing hikers that are going to be going through the Northwest forest, and you are going to be collecting different mementos and placing them into your personal journal. So like I said, this is a 2 to 4 player game, so there are 4 different player colors here, and each player has a player journal or a personal journal that you can fit 4x4, so 16 dice in. And what you're going to be doing in the game is you're going to be moving around this hiker meeple, collecting the different mementos, and then placing them into your personal journal in ways that are going to allow you to score as many points as possible. And once each player has filled their personal journal, or there also is one more endgame trigger, which I'll get into, but once everyone has done that, you will go into final scoring. You'll count up your victory points based off of the die that you have in your personal journal, and the person with the most victory points will be the winner. So that is everything for a little bit of an aim of the game. For components, like I already pointed out, there are 4 different colors of these personal journals. So each player is going to have a different player color. And then for the main board here, you guys can see that there are a ton of dice. I believe there are 64 dice in total. You're going to roll them all randomly, place them in here, and then you're going to have the main hiker meeple that everyone is going to be moving on their turn. So there's only ever going to be this one meeple, and you're going to be moving it in different ways, which I'll get into in the how to play. And wherever you move the hiker meeple, that is going to be the die that you draft and then place onto your personal journals. So you have that, the little hiker guide there, you have the bag here that you're going to be drafting the die out of at the beginning of the game. Each player is going to get one of these, which is going to be your player reference. It's going to help you with how the hiker is going to move and different things like that. There are going to be these pine cone tokens that you're going to gain based off of the dice that you're going to draft, and those are going to allow you to do a few different things. And then lastly, you also have the score pad here for scoring the end game. So that is everything for the components. Not too many components overall. You also have the box here. And yeah, that is everything for the components and the aim of the game. So let's get into exactly how Northwest plays so you can get a better feel if this is a game for you. So starting off the game, you are going to pick a first player, and that first player is going to be the first one to place the hiker meeple, which this is the only time that the hiker meeple has to be placed on a specific thing, which the first player will choose one of the mushrooms anywhere on the board, and they are going to take that mushroom, they're going to place it on the top left-hand corner of their board here. That's always where you have to start placing your things, and then you can place adjacently, kind of going out from there. But they will choose that, and then they will place the hiker meeple on that spot. I will mention that there are 5 different types of mementos out here in the forest. So like I've already mentioned, you have the mushrooms, you also have the fern leaves, you have the maple leaves, you have the bees, and then you also have the best one, which is the Bigfoot. So there are a few Bigfoots out there that if you just so happen to take a peek at that, and place them into your personal journal in the right way, you'll get quite a bit of points. So anyways, like I said, the first player is going to choose any mushroom from the board. They're going to take that mushroom out. They're going to place it on their personal journal in the top left-hand corner. That's always where everyone has to start. There is a little star in the left-hand corner so you guys can see exactly where you need to start. And then that is actually going to determine the way that the next player has to move the hiker meeples. So depending on the previous player's thing that they have drafted. So in this instance, the previous player has drafted a mushroom, like we already know, and that's going to determine now the next player's movement that they have to take in order to draft their mementos. So for this one with the mushroom, for example, the mushroom, if the previous player drafted a mushroom, the next player has to move to a spot surrounding that spot. So any of the, I believe, 8 different spaces surrounding that one space that the hiker meeple is in. So in this instance here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different options of where we can move. So I am now the red player, and I might decide, hey, I'm gonna move 1 up to this maple leaf here. I'm going to draft that. I'm going to place it in my starting spot in the top left-hand corner, and that is where the now spot is for the next player. Now that we know that the red player drafted a maple leaf, the yellow player now has to follow the movement of the maple leaf. So the maple leaf's movement is that they have to draft a memento from a diagonal spot. So in this circumstance here, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 different options for where we can go. Maybe we might decide, hey, I want to go down and to the right, and I'm going to draft this B and place that in my top left-hand corner. So now that this player has drafted a B, that is going to determine the movement for the next player. So when it comes to the B's movement, the B is actually similar to, I believe it's the knight in chess, where you have to go up 2 and over 1. So you have to move in an L shape, and you can do this in any direction you would like. So the player could go 1, 2, 3, or they could go 1, 2, 3, or they could go 1, 2, 3, or they could go 1, 2, 3. So maybe that's what they want to do. They want to collect this fern here, and they are going to place the fern in their top left-hand corner. So that actually moves us on to the movement for the fern. So the fern is the most simple, and that is simply that the next player now has to move either up, down, left, or right, so adjacently. So this player actually has 3 different options here. Actually 2, because up and down are both mushrooms, and then there's also a bee. So let's say they want to go, up, because this is another mushroom. It'll get them another mushroom, and they can actually place this either below or beside. So whenever you place an additional die, you're going to have to place adjacent to another die that you've already placed. You cannot place it diagonally. So they might place this here, and I will get into the different reasonings for why you would want to place different die in different spots, because at the end, depending on where you have everything in your personal journal, things are going to score in different ways. So that is how that works. So that player has drafted a mushroom, and like I've already said about mushrooms, is the player can then draft one from anywhere around where the hiker is. So this red player might decide they want to get in on some mushrooms. So they are going to move up, they're going to grab this mushroom here, and they are going to place that below the maple leaf there. Again, now the yellow player has to do a mushroom movement, and they are going to choose to move up 1, which this is a great time to explain the pine cone tokens. So any dice that you draft that has a little pine cone in the top right-hand corner is going to allow you to then grab a pine cone token from this little pile here, supply, and you're going to place it off to the side. And the pine cone tokens are going to do 3 different things. The first thing is that any pinecone tokens that you have at the end of the game are going to be worth 1 victory point, and they are also going to determine the tiebreaker. So if 2 players have the same score at the end of the game, whatever player has more of these pinecone tokens left over is going to be the winner. And then also throughout the game, you can decide to spend a pinecone token to extend your hike 1 die further. So for example, if I had to move the mushroom space, which is one space anywhere around, I could actually go 2 spaces in any direction instead of just 1 space by spending a pinecone token. So that's another way that you can use the pinecone tokens throughout the game. And then lastly, for the pinecone tokens, at the end of the game, most of the time, all players are going to complete their personal journal and have all 16 dice. But in the rare case where that is not the case, any players that did not complete their personal journal and have some empty spaces, that player will gain 1 pinecone token per empty space that they have in their personal journal. All right, and then lastly, for the different types of movement, I have skipped over a few turns, or I have fast forwarded through a few turns, and this player here has drafted a Bigfoot. So when the player before you drafts a Bigfoot, that actually allows you to go as far as you would like in any direction, up, down, left, or right, any, I guess, adjacent direction. And you can go as far as you want in one of those 4 directions, and that is going to allow you to draft. So this player might actually go up to here, and they are also going to draft a Bigfoot. So those are all of the different kind of movement patterns for each of the different types of mementos. Like I said, there are 5 different types, and each of them are going to have a different movement for the following player, and then also each of them are going to have a different way of scoring depending on where you place them in your personal journals. So once every player has moved different things, they've filled up their personal journal. Like I said, the game is going to end once all players have filled up their personal journals. In the rare case that the active player actually can't move the hiker in the specific way that it needs to be moved, that will also trigger the end of the game as well. And like I said, that would be the rare case where if any players had any empty spaces, they would gain a certain amount of those pinecone tokens that will give them 1 victory point each at the end and also be a tiebreaker. But for the most part, most of the time, every player will get the same amount of turns and every player will fill up their boards. And then once that is finished, you will move into endgame scoring and scoring all of the different mementos. So let's get into how to score Northwest. So starting off with probably the most simple of the scoring, and that is the mushrooms. So every player is going to gain 1 victory point for every mushroom that they have in their personal journal. And then whatever player has the most mushrooms is going to gain half of the score of their mushrooms rounded up. So for example, if the top player had, or the player with the most mushrooms had 7 mushrooms, they would cut that in half to 3.5 and then round that up and get an additional 4 victory points for having the most mushrooms. Next up, moving into the scoring for the ferns. So the ferns are going to be scored if they are orthogonally connected to any other ferns. So any ferns that are left alone, they are going to be scored 0 points, but then any other ferns that are at least connected to one other fern orthogonally, they cannot be connected diagonally, are going to score 2 victory points each. So for example, if you had, let's say, a group of 5 ferns in one area and then a group of 2 ferns in another area, you're going to gain 10 victory points and then 4 victory points for a total of 14 victory points for your ferns. Now moving on to the maple leaves. So these are actually going to be opposite of the ferns. So the maple leaves are actually wanting to be diagonally from other maple leaves. So any maple leaf that is connected diagonally from another maple leaf is going to score 2 victory points as well. And then any maple leaves that are orthogonally adjacent are going to be 0 victory points. Moving on to the scoring for the bees. The bees are quite interesting because they want to be surrounded by different types of mementos aside from the bees themselves. So every different type of thing surrounding a bee is going to score 1 victory point. And then like I said, aside from the bees themselves, they will score 0. And then lastly, for the scoring, we have Bigfoot. So each player might have more than 1 Bigfoot sighting in their personal journal. And basically you are going to score 5 victory points per Bigfoot that is in a different row and column that is not connected at all to another Bigfoot. So if you do have 2 Bigfoots that are connected diagonally to each other, those actually score 0 victory points. So you really have to strategically place these Bigfoots far away from each other in different rows and different columns in order to score those 5 victory points. And that, everyone, is a preview and exactly how Northwest is played. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please give this video a big thumbs up. Also, hit the subscribe button down below if you've yet to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden. A huge thank you to Brickhouse Games for sponsoring today's video. I appreciate it very, very much. If you guys are interested in Northwest, like I said, I will have a link to the campaign down below if you want to go and check it out. If it sounds like this game is right up your alley, if you enjoy really puzzly spatial games, I definitely recommend it. So yeah, that is everything for today. I love you guys so, so much. Remember, you are somebody's reason to smile, and I will see you in the next board game video. Bye, friends.